Greetings, Earthlings. It is me, America's Shaman, Shaman Patrick. Merrick and I have been joking, like, what could we be? The friendly neighborhood shaman? America's shaman? I'm an American shaman. I love America. I'm a very patriotic person. Anyone who lives in America, you should love the country you're in. You can disagree with some of the things, but it would be insane to not want the country that you live in to succeed. That's bananas. That's crazy. I don't know where this shit come from. Marxist revolution. I don't know where it's coming from. I really can't. I don't know. But part of my work is to calm people down. The videos I make are not necessarily for spiritual people or even people interested in shamanism. I feel like I'm an onboarding person. Like, hey, come on. You're newly awakened. You don't know what to do. Hey, come on. Let me help you through this part. Let me help ease your fears, because fear is an illusion. How do I know fear is an illusion? Because I'm a shaman. I've died and I've come back to life. You don't have to believe I'm a shaman. You don't have to believe any of that shit, honey. Think of today's presentation about easing your fears, about AI, about the future, about the shit that comes out of Whitney Webb's mouth. And you might feel like I'm picking on Whitney Webb. Well, man, she's causing a lot of fear among people. And it's impossible to calm these people down. Like, some of you very lovely followers of mine, when I was talking about, this was a couple months ago, I was talking about how there's nothing to really be afraid of. And people brought up, well, Palantir, Peter Thiel, that's something to be afraid of. Donald Trump, that's something to be afraid of. And I'm like, I don't see that. I don't really see anything. So I did all this research on it, which I love. I love getting to the root of a fear. I love getting to the bottom of something. I have yet to see something to be truly afraid of. I haven't seen that. But I have noticed that people want to hold on to this fear. They want to be very afraid. I've even watched videos from other content creators who are talking about things, taking things out of context. And I'm like, you took that quote out of context. You're just repeating something that you heard somewhere else. You're like, where's this shit coming from? Where is it coming from? But like, I ordered Alex Karp's book, The Technological Republic. It arrives today. I can't wait to read it. In that book, he outlines a vision for the future. I love visions for the future. I love visionary people. I love people who are focused on solutions rather than problems, unlike our dear friend, Whitney Webb. I love her. Man, she's really helped me become a way more conscious person. Her work, fear-mongering work, has made my marriage stronger. I'm a weirdo. Like, I'll take anything. Has made my relationship with my husband stronger, has made my relationships with my friends stronger. I have a better sense of what's coming for the future. Thank you, Whitney. Thank you. I love you so much. Please let me give you a makeover. Do you have a gay best friend that could give you a makeover? I would love to give you a makeover. Not just a physical makeover, but a spiritual makeover. Hey, Whitney, do you have a shaman? I'll be your shaman. I'll come see you. I'll help you heal. I will help you heal. Because honey, this world needs healing, not more fear. So we're going to talk about that today and more on this episode of the Shaman Patrick Show. Let's go.
He was once a storm in human form, sharp tongue, cold soul, heart worn and torn, living like a ghost who missed his grave till the spirit sang out and called him brave. He got rewired by the great unknown, heard the call like a dial tone to the bone. So pull up a chair, enjoy the glow. This is the Shaman Patrick Show.
Let's check in with YouTube. If you search for Palantir, what do you get? You get, what does Palantir actually do? I watched this video. This video is crazy. This is one of the craziest videos I've ever seen. because it doesn't really talk about what Palantir does. He interviews white women. He doesn't interview Alex Karp or Peter. He interviews white women from the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. There's nothing wrong with white women, but I was like, and he repeats a lot of things that Whitney Webb says. I haven't watched some of these videos. I have several different YouTube accounts. Some of these videos I've watched on other accounts. This one is crazy. This one is crazy. He also repeats things that Whitney Webb said, takes the same quotes out of context. Like, this video too repeats some things that come from Whitney Webb. So does this one. I've seen this one, and I've seen this one too. The most evil company in America. This one lifts word for word things that Whitney Webb has said. But they present it as if it's their own research, which is very strange. Some of these videos don't say, well, I learned from Whitney Webb. They present it as if they're coming up with it themselves. This one too. But I didn't watch so many videos about what other people thought. I listened to Alex. I listened to Peter. I did a deep dive on listening to Peter Thiel, and I've listened. This one too. This one's a little crazy. She repeats some things that our good friend Whitney Webb has said. So what's going on here? Are people just repeating things that they heard from Whitney Webb? Are they? Well, let's talk about this in a presentation titled Fear-Mongering, AI, and the Future of Humanity. Because humanity is going to go on. Like, hey, this is an exercise that I love to do. Like, I love when we were watching Downton Abbey, and I'm thinking, man, just 100 years ago, this was going on. Just 100 years ago. And if you think about living 100 years ago, what were their ideas of the future? Could they have even imagined anything that's going on today? No. So think 100 years from now, what could be going on? If you watch Downton Abbey, whenever they would get new tech, and I know it's a show, come on, but whenever they would get new devices or gadgets, they would get really excited about it. They were like, ooh, we'll be able to communicate. We'll be able to do these things. And so when AI first came along, I was like, ooh, we'll get to do new things. Because a spiritually awakened person is not going to be afraid of anything. They're not going to be afraid of new technologies, new food, new ways of being, government lockdowns, mass surveillance, digital ID. They're just not going to be afraid of that stuff because fear is an illusion. Fear is not real. And let me tell you something. Somebody who lies to you is trying to control you. They're trying to control the way you see reality. Somebody gaslights you. They're trying to control you. They're trying to control you by driving you crazy. If somebody wants you to be afraid of something, they're trying to manipulate you. They are. I love helping people work through their fears because fear is a very easy and cheap way to manipulate people. It's a very easy way to do it. I would probably have a lot of followers if I were fear mongering about stuff. But you know what? I'm doing it the hard way. I'm not cheating, scamming to get ahead. It's probably going to take me a little bit longer. But if I were just to make a bunch of videos about how you should be afraid of stuff, I probably would already have this channel monetized like that. I'm a weirdo in the spiritual space because I'm grounded. I'm no bullshit. I curse a lot. I am one conscious motherfucker, you see. That's what I'm all about. So if you start to see that anybody who wants you to be afraid of something is trying to control you, or if somebody is trying to scare you, they want you to be afraid as well. So let's talk about this source of the fear. If you've heard any fear mongering about AI, Palantir, or a looming techno-feudalistic dystopia, chances are it traces back to one woman, Whitney Webb. Her fingerprints are on nearly every dire prediction floating around right now. Different writers and content creators lift the same out of context quotes that she does, recycling her fearful vision of a hopeless, enslaved future. Now, to be fair, Whitney's work does a thorough job of outlining potential problems, but she rarely offers solutions. Instead, she projects certainty about the intentions of powerful figures she has never met and knows nothing about personally. She lacks the lived experience of building businesses, leading nations, or developing software, the kind of roles that require true wisdom and responsibility. A good journalist asks more questions than they answer. Whitney seems to assume that anyone with power must be bad simply because they have it. That's not insight. That's ego projection. And some of these videos, claim to know Peter Thiel and what he's all about, and they've never even had dinner with him. They've never gone to interview him or see him at all. And the closest we can get to understanding this is listening to podcasts with people. And some of these podcasts do not treat Peter or Alex or Sam or even Elon very fair at all. So it's hard to have a real conversation with somebody when they're accusing you of stuff. And I've watched some very contentious interviews with these people where they judge them and project upon them and confuse that for reality. I don't think it's fair. I would love to, of all the men that we're going to talk about Elon, Sam, Alex, and Peter in this video. Out of those four guys, I would love to sit down and have a conversation with Alex and Peter, because Peter is gay like me. I got a soft spot for my fellow gays because I know it's hard to be gay in this world. And he's a gay conservative, man. They hate that shit. They hate that shit. Oh, and he also believes in God and Jesus. God, man. We're fucked. Peter Thiel believes in Jesus. Oh my God. Horror, the horror of it all. And they're also all white men. So, if Whitney hates men and hates white men, which I'm not sure that she doesn't, she seems to have a boner for hating on white men. She really does. But anyway, you have to get to know these people before you can judge them. And yes, they are making decisions at the highest levels of government. They are. They have government. They are making decisions for us all. We should want to get to know them. We should want to hear them out. But it's very hard to have a real conversation with somebody when you're attacking them. And believe me, I know I work with people in recovery. Sometimes you say stuff to them and they feel attacked even when you're not attacking them. So for somebody to get to know what they're all about, I think is important. And a good journalist would do that. And I don't consider Whitney Webb a good journalist at all. She's too emotionally invested. She doesn't have that cold, clinical evaluation. Like, I went to journalism school, and I did not continue in that because I didn't want to be indoctrinated or brainwashed. Or have an editor that would tell me I couldn't say certain things, even though I knew they were true. So what Whitney Webb is not journalism. It's fear mongering, and she misses out on some key points. If she were a really good journalist, she would do these things, but she doesn't. So she's not really a good journalist. She has already got caught fabricating stories, and she takes things out of context, quotes out of context, and presents them as meaning something that they don't. It's wild. I'm like, where did you go to journalism school? Where did you go to journalism school? Where did you go to journalism school? I'm going to look that up. I'm going to look that up, because you don't have to be a trained journalist to be a journalist. But I want to see where she went to. Okay, here we have it. Oh, she's a self-taught journalist. Okay, you can be a self-taught journalist, but she graduated from Pineview School and later Davidson College with a bachelor's in biology. Okay, so she's not even a trained journalist. You can teach yourself stuff. You really can. You have to be really autodidactic. But that might explain why there's so much midwittery and pseudo-intellectualism. She didn't have a teacher to say opinions are not journalism. Okay, so now we're starting to get, she might have just accidentally gotten some attention. Okay, but here's what I want to talk about. A spiritually conscious person knows this. You cannot wield great power with an intact ego. The old days of brute force domination are over. That type of power no longer works. Authentic power now arises when you disidentify from the ego and awaken into a deeper consciousness. Humanity is evolving. We are becoming a spiritual species. Our lives, beliefs, and attitudes are shifting right alongside that evolution. Massive changes always trigger fear, and fear-mongering thrives in this environment. It gets attention. It sells books. It builds careers. Whitney Webb has crafted hers by warning people to be terrified of AI, surveillance, and digital IDs. In this way, she's not far off from an evangelical preacher telling congregations that the devil and his minions are coming for their souls. It's a recycled tactic. Frighten the audience, profit from their fear. And so I know that Whitney uses Marxist revolutionary tactics, but it might be something just as simple as wanting to make money. And I don't want to prevent people from making money. I want people to profit and make a living and be able to provide for their families. I want that. Personally, for me, I would not want to profit off of fear because that would create something it would be an illusion. I would constantly have to keep coming up with new things for people to be afraid of. I would have to constantly be digging around, looking for stuff to be afraid of, to tell other people to be afraid of. That would give me cancer. That would give me autoimmune disorders. That would give me IBS. I'd be rooting around in garbage and dark places to try to uncover even more things. So if I built a career on fear mongering, I would have to keep scaring people. I would end up being like some sort of spook or ghost or witch, like living in a haunted house. I don't want to live in a haunted house. I want to live in a temple of peace and love and compassion and tolerance. That's a house. I don't want to build my house on a bedrock of fear because fear is an illusion. And, let me go back over to this old power doesn't work anymore. I love my father-in-law, but he lives in this world where you get a job, you work for a company, you get a retirement. Like, it's very boomer. And he thinks that you could just work hard at a job and succeed. Well, those days are over. A job, your salary is going to cap out at a certain time. Today's culture rewards the creators, the people who are building something, writing books, making art, making music, creating apps, creating software. To be truly successful in this world, you're going to have to build something. And you can build things by working for a company, but most companies today are run by insane HR departments and Marxist revolution. It's very hard to get ahead, but he thinks that all you need is just a job and you'll be fine. He doesn't understand entrepreneurship or anything like that. And I tried to appeal to him and I said, well, the old ways don't work anymore. You have to rely on this, and we're spiritually evolving. Like a truly spiritually evolved person could just sit in a room and money would just come from the sky. Money is energy. So realigning these worldviews, like the old ways are over. The old ways don't work anymore. And a spiritually conscious person would not want to work a job for other people. They would want to build something that benefits humanity at large. They would want to try to help people in various ways. A spiritual person can't even go just get a job. A spiritually awakened person can't really do that anymore. They will be fought against. They will be uh, hated, because the more spiritually evolved you become, the more spiritually conscious you become like a mirror. You start reflecting shit back to people. You have to have a great degree of presence to be able to work in a company or around people who are spiritually dead inside, who are stagnant and sclerotic. It's very challenging. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I would say the efforts would be better suited on developing yourself spiritually instead of having to constantly expend energy remaining present around a bunch of unconscious people. Hey, why do you think spiritual masters live in temples? They don't build a temple next to a Walmart. Well, maybe they do, but you have to build a temple. You can't be around a bunch of unconscious people all the time. You can if you want to, but a spiritual master is not going to do that. They're going to say, that's a fight that I don't want to fight. I don't want to constantly fight fearful and unconscious people, because I'm telling you, I try to calm people down. They get pissed at me. They get upset at me. Sometimes my vibration can set people off who need to feel angry. So yeah, you do, when you're spiritually evolved or you're more conscious. I'm not saying I'm a perfect master, okay? But you do start to notice the effect you have on people just by walking into a room. Some people who are receptive will be receptive to my energy and calm down. They'll be like, whew. Some people can sense when I walk into a building, and then other people get stirred up, get pissed off because they're feeding and they're addicted to that anger and fear. And here I am threatening to take away the fear, threatening to take away the anger. You don't have to be upset at anything. You don't have to be resentful over everything. You don't have to have a grievance. You don't have to have a grievance. But some people have built their entire lives and identities on these resentments, fears, and grievances. They've made it a part of their personality, and they will hate anybody who attempts to take that away from them. Even as I'm making this video about easing the fears that Whitney Webb puts out there, might cause some people to feel some type of way. It has already. Like the last video I made about Whitney Webb, I lost like 20 subscribers. Like, people don't want their fears allayed. They want those fears. They want those prejudices. Any video that I make about Jesus or Donald Trump not being evil, I lose subscribers. It's wild. People will subscribe to me and then they'll unsubscribe. It's kind of, my husband are like, well, we'll probably never reach 1,000 subscribers because people want to be afraid. And I'm not going to promote fear. I'm just not going to do it. But there's something else going on. The multisensory awakening. Fear-mongering about the future ignores something crucial. Humanity is in the midst of a mass spiritual awakening. Gary Zukov described this shift as the move from five-sensory to multisensory perception. Five-sensory awareness limited to survival, dominance, and personal gain. Multisensory perception expands into intuition, inner guidance, interconnectedness, and authentic purpose. So the key aspects of multisensory perception include intuition, listening to subtle feelings and hunches; authentic power, aligning personality with the soul's purpose; interconnectedness, knowing all experiences are connected and purposeful; and conscious creation, recognizing that intentions ripple far beyond the physical. This is the next step in human evolution, the universal human, alive to a compassionate, conscious universe. Multisensory people already know that the universe is not hostile and does not mean anyone harm. Fearful narratives miss this truth entirely. So, if you're scared about mass surveillance and digital ID, I'll tell you, control mechanisms fail. Control mechanisms will fail because the only thing those control mechanisms can control is the ego. Not just your ego, but the collective ego. And as you know, we wrote a book about the machinations of ego. And it is about, it's a searing takedown of humanity's greatest threat. And so if you don't have an ego, you can't really be controlled by anything. So if you're scared of mass surveillance and being controlled, do your part by ending the ego in you. When you end the ego in you, you chip away at the collective ego. And the more people are not operating from a place of ego, like let's say that somebody comes up with a way to control all of humanity, and they come up with this way to control humanity, and then right before they deploy it, the ego breaks in them and they're like, oh, I'm not going to do that. You don't know what's going to happen. Or let's say somebody comes up with a way to control humanity. And why would somebody want to do that? Who wants to control people? That's a projection. Hey, some people have accused me of wanting to start a cult here, and I have a cult-free guarantee. You can support this work with confidence because we have a cult-free guarantee. We will not be starting a cult, even though many of you have asked me to. We will not be starting a cult here, all right? So who wants to control people anyway? But let's say that this mass surveillance control grid gets deployed, and the collective ego breaks to a point where people just don't care. They're like, okay, control me. Sure. Whatever. Sure. Whatever, man. See, I'm multisensory. Spirit's trying to take my voice. See, I'm multisensory. I can see that it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. Like, if you don't care about being controlled, what can control you? It's fucking simple. Who cares? Okay, sure. Digital ID, sure, whatever. Means nothing to me. What can you really do to me? Really, 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 what can you do? And here's another thing. You create a morphogenetic field. When you become love, you only attract love. When you become truly free, you only attract freedom. So yeah, Whitney Webb, you can waste all this time scaring people about stuff, or you could just say, hey, it's going to be okay. Let it come. Let it come. Let it come. Non-resistance. Sure, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. My husband and I joke about if it's a communist takeover, we'll probably work for the Ministry of Truth making propaganda. Because for God's sakes, could y'all just make some good propaganda? The propaganda that the communists are making right now sucks. It's so bad. But Merrick and I could probably come up with some better propaganda, some better storylines, and really sell communism to people if we really wanted to. It's just too dumb. It's too obvious. Like, we watched Alien Earth, which was such terrible commie propaganda. It was so bad that it actually made us depressed. And I think that was the point. We're like, oh my God, why are communists such terrible story writers? So if it is a communist takeover, we'll probably be working for the Ministry of Truth. And because we work for the Ministry of Truth, they'll probably let us be gay together, because that's only reserved for people who are in the state control mechanism. But it would also be an uneasy alliance. You know, people who want the revolution, like Whitney Webb and other people who may want to overthrow the government, they'll be executed. But normal people like us will be fine. So if it is a communist takeover, line up with it. Just line up with it. Say, yeah, I don't know, it could be good. It's less likely to happen if you're not afraid of it. It's less like, and any spiritual person can tell you that you create your own reality. But what I really want to talk about next is Whitney Webb versus the conscious lens. Whitney Webb's worldview is still five sensory. She frames everything as oppressor versus oppressed. And I'm talking about her work here. I'm not claiming to be in her mind, okay? She assumes that, I should have said her work. So thank you, spirits. She assumes that visionaries like Alex Karp, Peter Thiel, Sam Altman, and Elon Musk are out to dominate, control, and deceive. She builds her arguments by cherry-picking quotes to support a hopeless vision of tyranny. A multisensory person interprets differently. They know that what you see in others reflects what you are projecting yourself. To a conscious person, these men are not faceless overlords, but visionaries tackling enormous problems. They are building solutions, not just hoarding power. And so I took some time to get to know as much as I could the four men that Whitney has a boner for. The 4 men that she says are very bad, they are so bad people. Well, no one is bad. Even Whitney Webb is not bad. She might be a little spiritually sick, maybe delusional, maybe having some intentions that she's not being clear with us. She says she wants to just help people awaken, but maybe you are, Whitney. Maybe you are helping awaken people by seeing how stupid and dumb all this fear mongering is. But if we listen to these men and hear what they have to say, I'm glad they're all Americans. I'm glad they all have a focus on American values. I'm glad they want to help America succeed. And I'm glad that they have visions for their future. Hey, they're all rich enough. They don't have to do this shit at all. You see, that's the benefit of being like a billionaire. You got fuck you money. And y'all might think that like they could just ride off into the sunset. Many billionaires have. Many billionaires have taken their money and said, okay, I'm done, and retired or whatever. These men are still working because they're passionate about what they do. They're investing time and money and resources. They're also having to deal with midwits and pseudo-intellectuals who purport to know what they're all about. Yeah, you do have to have a certain degree of intelligence to understand what Alex, Elon, Sam, and Peter are talking about. You cannot be dumb and understand what they're talking about. Like really stupid people would say, oh, okay. And really smart people would say, okay, I hear you. But that in between, that midwit, the pseudo-intellectual, they're going to try to go toe to toe with these very intelligent men, and they're not equipped for that. They are not wise or educated enough to be able to even understand what they're talking about. I mean, I've worked with software engineers. I've worked for a software company. I would say I'm a pretty smart guy because I used to code and build software and websites. I'm not a know-it-all, but I can definitely understand what Alex means and what Elon means and what Sam means and I can hear what they're saying. And I've also talked to CEOs of companies, and I've also been around very wealthy people, and I've also been around very poor people. And so I know that poor people and really smart people have a whole lot in common. Very poor people and really smart people can really talk to each other and understand each other, because the really dumb person, they're not very smart person will know they're not very smart. They're not very smart. And the really smart person will know they're really smart. And there's no ego involved in that. But man, pseudo-intellectuals are threatened by really smart people, and they feel superior to not so smart people. So you watch out for those feelings of superiority. Yeah, I'm a pretty intelligent guy. I probably am. But at the same time, I'm not a know-it-all either. And I'm definitely not a midwit or a pseudo-intellectual, because I think intellectualism is a huge, huge problem. People who don't know what they're talking about talk way too fucking much. So if we look at those 4 men and what they're all about, let me boil it down to a sentence. All right. Alex Karp envisions data-driven governance to defend Western democracies against authoritarian collapse. He's very against authoritarianism. I almost hates it. And he doesn't want an authoritarian country to take over Western democracies. He fights for democracy, which is so weird why Whitney would have this worldview of him, which makes me believe that she's a Marxist revolutionary, because who would argue with that, wanting to protect democracy? Isn't it wild? Isn't it insane? Here's Peter Thiel. He pushes for bold, contrarian innovation, breaking up government monopolies to unleash progress. He thinks America technological innovation has become stagnant. And I know Whitney has talked about him wanting to create breakaway civilizations because they feel like human progress and human evolution is hampered by over-regulation and a insane focus on environmentalism, like environmentalism being the most anti-human thing you can come up with. Peter has also talked about authoritarianism coming through environmentalism. So Alex and Peter both are anti-authoritarianism and against government control. which is so weird why Whitney sees it that way. I'm like, okay, you're against authoritarianism, and they outline why they're against it, and they talk about why. So is Whitney for authoritarianism? It makes no sense. It's like blah, 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 blah. It doesn't make any sense at all. And Sam Altman sees AI as the fire of our time, dangerous but transformative, a path to uplift humanity and possibly fund universal basic income. So in Sam Altman, you have a man who knows that he's playing with fire, and he's trying to guide AI in a way that it gives power to the people and not to authoritarian governments. Are you sensing a theme here? That the three men I've talked about right now do not want to live in an authoritarian government. And AI is the only thing that is causing American growth right now. America innovation is stagnant. And if it weren't for AI, and so people who fearmonger about AI, I'm like, do you want America to fail? Do you want America to stay stagnant? There's a lot of innovation happening. Sam Altman envisions a world where you are able to talk to AI and create a software program and maybe profit on that software program. So AI can help everybody create whatever they want. It democratizes creation. It puts creation into the hands of the people. And I think that's incredible. And I'm also glad that the three guys I've mentioned so far all hold dear to American values. Any dumb person can see that. I'd want Americans to be building these things. I personally, I'm an American, so I would want that. It's logical, right? And here we have Elon Musk. He dreams of a renewable, multiplanetary civilization while warning of AI risks and developing tools like brain-computer interfaces to keep humanity relevant. So some people think that he wants to the transhuman agenda. Well, he sees that AI is going to become more and more prominent in human civilization, and that at some point humans might have to augment themselves in order to stay relevant in this competitive world. I'm not saying he's right. I'm not saying he's wrong. But if you think that we're already cyborgs via mobile phones and wearables and other things like that, we've already become different. Hey, I'm going to say this. Grimes talked about this. We've already become a different species simply by having all of these technologies in our life. People like Gigi Young will say that this is against what God wants, or this is very bad, or whatever. I don't see it that way. She can see it that way if she wants, but I'm a shaman. Everything has consciousness. Everything comes from spirits. There's really nothing to fear. If these technologies are in our life, it's part of the unfolding of consciousness in this planet, on this planet, which may not even be a planet, but we know that this is what the universe wants because it is happening. When you tone down all the fear about it and listen to it logically, Whitney, and I'm going to say this, Whitney Webb is also a woman, and men are more logical than women. So Whitney Webb, I love you, honey, but let's hear from a man as well. What would a man say about all this? And I know that might chap some asses, but hey, masculinity is being restored. Femininity is being restored. Men and women are different. It's been this way for thousands and thousands of years. And we've had this temporary delusion that men and women are the same. And men and women need each other. Men and women complement each other. So Whitney's worldview as a woman, thank you, honey. Now, how would a man feel about this? Let's get some logic. Let's get out of the emotions of it. Let's get out of that emotional fear, because women would view this kind of stuff very differently than a man would do. And I'm not telling women how to think here, I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to be interviewing a woman, hopefully, in the future who knows all about this stuff. And so I don't think a man should explain this to women. I think women need to hear it from women and men need to hear it from men. Men, step up. Stop being little bitches. Stop being little bitches and reclaim your masculinity and begin to be a provider, a steward, and a caregiver for the women and the children and the other men on this planet. That's our job. I love settling into traditional roles, like the traditional role of a shaman, the traditional role of a gay man, the traditional role of a gay shaman America. I love that traditional shit. I love it. But I'm also 53 and married. So I probably would love that traditional shit. But I love knowing my place in the world. I love knowing my purpose. It feels so fucking good. Let me tell you. So one more thing about these men. They may not be flawless saints, but they invest their own money, time, and resources into building real tools and solutions. They are already acting out of multi-sensory awareness, even if imperfectly. To be successful into this day and age, you have to be multi-sensory. You do. And I'm not saying that Whitney Webb is not multi-sensory. I'm saying that she might be looking at things through the lens of ego. Well, she's obviously afraid. So fear is an illusion. So it's already fucking insane. But if someone is trying to scare you, they're trying to control you. Fear is the oldest trick in the book. Lies, gaslighting, and fear-mongering are all forms of manipulation. And that's what Whitney Webb's work, that's a tongue twister right there. That's what Whitney Webb's work amounts to, keeping people paralyzed in suspicion and terror instead of moving forward. This is not to say Alex, Peter, Sam, and Elon are above critique. They are humans with flaws and egos like the rest of us. But unlike the fear mongers, they openly affirm values like free speech, liberty, freedom, and resisting authoritarian control. They actually put skin in the game. They love America. Is that a ghost? I thought I heard a ghost. It's just you, right?
Yeah.
While I have you here, isn't it, because look, Alex, Peter, Sam, and Elon, they're all about resisting authoritarian control. They're for free speech, liberty, and freedom, but they also love America and want it to succeed in a world where authoritarian states are gaining ground. Where's the bad in that?
I don't see any bad in that.
So what is Whitney talking about? What is she talking about?
That's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing.
But why would you be against that?
Well, how do we help people get over their fear?
Well, you gotta,
because Whitney might be fearful of something too, because she's a person just like us.
Like, yeah,
you know,
right? But what is she afraid of? Like, she's literally making things up to be afraid of. Because if you were to listen to these interviews, you've listened to a few of these podcasts. Remember that podcast with Tucker Carlson and Sam Altman?
Yeah.
Where Tucker was all like accusing him of murder and all this stuff?
Yeah.
And it's like, why don't you just want to listen to these people? You know?
It's a good question.
Right.
I mean, that's a good question. Just listen and let them share how they see the world.
Like I talked about this before. I know you don't like
I'm hungry too.
What do you want to eat?
I'm going to make something to eat.
Like what?
A protein shake.
Okay. Would you make one for me too?
Yes.
Would you put creatine in it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. But so, Merrick and I have these conversations and looking like, why would people feel this way? So Whitney, whatever Whitney is afraid of, because if she is a Marxist revolutionary, if I were a Marxist revolutionary, I would be afraid of mass surveillance. I would be afraid of digital ID. I would be afraid of that stuff, because if a government gets installed that's about freedom, justice, liberty, freedom of speech, all of that stuff, it's going to be harder to overthrow a government. And you know what? America is kind of the last bastion of this. And so if I were a revolutionary or a communist, I'd be very afraid of I'd be terrified of that shit. If I were a terrorist, I'd be afraid of mass surveillance as well. If I intended harm to other people, I would be terrified of that stuff. Yeah, but it could also mean that some bad people could get elected and use these tools for harm. No one's denying that. But I think if it's built in to the software, if the people building these AI tools and surveillance tools and all of that, if it's built in, if freedom of speech is built in, if freedom, if, non-authoritarianism, if it's built in and baked in, I personally would like that. I love the fact that there are Americans who are at the forefront of this stuff. I love it. I don't see anything wrong with it, but I was willing to listen to Whitney's stuff. But when she started taking things out of context, I went and watched the whole podcast of some things that she was pulling the quotes from. And I'm like, that's not what they said, bitch. They didn't say that. Why are you putting words in their mouth? So if Whitney Webb were truly committed to good journalism, she would examine not just the dangers of technology, but also its potential benefits. She would remain detached, clinical, and balanced, reporting facts instead of playing psychic. She would acknowledge that the world as it stands is bloated, unsustainable, and in desperate need of alternatives. She would invite her audience to create solutions, not just marinate in fear. We can thank Whitney for exposing corruption, but we don't have to accept her fearful narrative as the final word. The future is not hopeless. The realm of fear is an illusion. What if what's coming is infinitely better than what we already have? The conscious choice is clear. Stop letting fear dictate the story. Step into authentic power. Work together. Build a vision of the future that is worthy of us all. She got a lot of attention for her book, One Nation Under Blackmail, where she talked about how government leaders and politicians were being blackmailed. Honey, we've known that for decades and years. But thank you for making a list of it all. But I also believe that those days are over as well, that those days of blackmailing people are over. How do I know this? Well, I'm multisensory. Here's the thing. Most people at this point, most guys have dick pics. Most people don't care about what other people do. Look at your coworker, Glenn Greenwald. Didn't y'all try to unearth something about him? So what? Those days are over. I know those days are over. I feel those days are over. Anybody who does that sort of blackmail shit, this is where we learn to forgive people. This is where we learn to overlook people, because people who do shit, forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do. A new era of forgiveness can be at hand. We've heard of disturbing things like Diddy and Epstein and all that stuff. All that stuff came to light. Now, Whitney says there's more people doing it, but I'm telling you, the mass surveillance was not for people like you and me. The mass surveillance was for people who were trafficking children, other types of things. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but if you're worried about you being surveilled, it's not for you. You're actually not that important. Nobody cares what you do. Nobody's trying to get you in prison or put you in jail or anything like that. But if you really think that our country is so far gone that it would allow this shit to go on, that it would allow people to commit horrible crimes and go unpunished, I'm telling you, they just need to let the bad guys think they've won. Okay? That takes a lot of faith. That takes a lot of willingness. But it has to look like the bad guys have won. And I'm only going to say that once. All right? But there's a very good reason why all of this is going on. All right? So you got to stop letting fear dictate the story. Your life depends on it. Your life depends on it. So a shaman is going to be a different type of spiritual teacher. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to get in there and we're going to pull it out by the root. And the one thing that if you are truly interested in becoming more conscious, becoming more spiritually evolved, you got to kind of be like a warrior with this shit. And you got to stop listening to people who give you bad information. Like some spiritual masters might say that it's all bad information. But like I said at the very beginning of this video, I feel like we're onboarding people at this point. We're helping ease people's fears. And so you gotta stop with the bad information. You have to. Excuse me, I have my protein shake. So here's the final note. Don't just swallow fear-mongering from midwits and pseudo-intellectuals who string together a bunch of ominous buzzwords to sound profound. Fear is cheap. It takes no imagination to say the future is scary and we're all doomed. This also includes spiritual content creators who are still pushing fear. This includes luminaries, okay? This might be the most unpopular thing I've ever said, but if a spiritual teacher right now is telling you to be afraid of something, what are they all about? If they're telling you to prepare for something that could happen in the future, that's not spiritual awakening. A true spiritually awakened person would ease your fears, would tell you there's nothing to be afraid of. You're already protected. And many of you have suggested that I watch spiritual teachers who are just talking about fear-based stuff. I'm like, what? I thought you were spiritual. I thought you were spirit. I thought you were awakened. Awakening is going to end the fear. Even my heroes, like I heard a video from Gary Zukov this morning, and the title of the video is, "What are we going to do about Trump?" And then he starts to repeat some propaganda about Trump that's not true. And I was like, that's not true. And I'm like, well, Gary, you have some wrong information there. You have some bad information from a midwit and a pseudo-intellectual. He even went so far to equate Hitler with Trump. And I'm like, Gary, Spirit's trying to take my voice again. When I say spirits trying to take my voice, there's some spirits who don't want me to talk about this stuff. They make it known, but they're also helping me in various ways. So, and I was like, Gary, what, man? Equating Trump with Hitler? What are you doing, man? What are you doing? Merrick brought up that he was attempting to appeal to his audience. I'm like, well, but if he's repeating propaganda as if it's true, that's not very conscious, Gary. So, all this shit is getting exposed. I'm sorry. Wah, wah. It's all getting exposed. There's nothing to be afraid of. Eckhart doesn't talk about you need to be afraid of this or that or this or that. He did get a little co-opted in 2020. I saw it. He was forced to talk about racism, and he was doing it kind of through gritted teeth. And he was like, well, somebody told me I need to make this video. So sometimes people can be in your organization and encourage it. Thank you, spirits. Like sometimes your secretary or your assistant, or maybe you got a Marxist revolutionary working for you. But there's really nothing to be afraid of. And you've got to quit listening to people who want you to be afraid. Actually, I'm going to say it better. Listen to them and see how nonsensical it sounds. But I think we all, every one of us, spiritual teachers out there, have a duty to work through this fear. Fear is an illusion. Fear creates nothing, which is so crazy that Gary made that video equating Trump with, that is fucking crazy that he did that. That is wild. But hey, we all have our moments. He might have made a video correcting that. But in the comments, people were like, yes, I'm so glad you're finally talking about this evil man. And I'm like, oh my God. Like what I know about Trump and the Trump family is that they're very spiritual, and that they might be more new age than you think. At least that's what I've heard. And I'm not going to fearmonger about Trump. I didn't fearmonger about Biden. I don't fearmonger about Democrats. I don't fearmonger about that stuff at all. So, and I'm actually not very political, but at the same time, I recognize that many people are stuck in this framework as well. So I feel really called to talk about it. But doing your own research and questioning narratives takes some effort. Yes, getting to know people and examining their intentions requires energy, but here's the secret. Living in fear is way more work. It drains you. It robs you of joy. It locks you in a loop of suspicion and paralysis. When you choose curiosity over fear, you not only free yourself, you begin to see reality more clearly. You discover that most people, even powerful ones, are far more complex than the caricatures painted by fear pushers. The future belongs to those who are brave enough to ask questions, look deeper, and refuse to let their nervous system be hijacked by other people's panic. Don't hand your power over to midwit doomsayers. Fear is exhausting. Conscious inquiry is liberating. Choose wisely. So really, it comes down to this. There's nothing to be afraid of because there's nothing to be afraid of because there's nothing to be afraid of. You are already protected. Everything that happens to you is for your benefit, whether you choose to see it that way or not. I mean, I have been through so much shit. I shouldn't have this perspective. I mean, I have been a victim to my family, to other people, to governments, I've been a victim to tons of shit. But I don't see myself as a victim. I'm not stuck. When I got sexually assaulted, I was like, well, that probably saved me from another attack. I mean, when I got put in a mental institution, I mean, at the time I was like, you can't do this to me. You can't lock me up. But now I see it's for my benefit. Everything that has ever happened to me has been for my benefit. And if this video benefited you, then everything I went through in the past was also for your benefit. That's how this shit works. It ain't about me anymore. It ain't about me. It's not about me and what I want out of life. It's about how can I be of service. And for my good friend Whitney Webb, my sister in Christ Whitney Webb, I love you, honey. I love you. And I want to be the love. And I want you to be love. And if you come at all of this from a place of love, hey, Whitney, you can have a spiritual awakening. You can transform. You can go through this profound change. You could shift. Wouldn't that be an incredible story? Like Whitney Webb, like I've had a profound spiritual awakening and I no longer see the world the way I used to. But people like Whitney can't admit that they were wrong. I can admit I was wrong. Some of my past work it's not accurate to who I am today. I let everybody know that. If you see a video from me from a year ago, I'm going to be different because I'm in a constant state of evolving. And so are you. But I truly want you to have freedom from fear. Freedom is no fear. You see? I love you all so very much. If you want to support the work we do, please like and subscribe, comment, or use an emoji if you've got nothing to say. Share this content with others. Thank you for watching and growing with us. And freedom is no fear.
I walk through the shadows, chasing no lights. Fear was the jailer that locked up my skies. But the bars were illusions, smoke on the air. When I opened my eyes, there was nothing there. False evidence appearing real. Awakening is freedom, no chains, no disguise. When the fear dissolves, the truth never dies. You can't fake this fire, it burns crystal clear. Awakening is freedom, and freedom is no fear. The ego loves panic, it feeds on control. It whispers disaster, it gnaws at the soul. But when silence arrived, the noise disappeared. The monster was hollow, the terror insincere. Face everything and run. Awakening is freedom, no chains, no disguise. When the fear dissolves, the truth never dies. You can't fake this fire, it burns There is a version of me that never existed. It rattled its chains like a ghost in a haunted house. Some people want me to bring the ghost back, but it's long gone. At the soul level, fear doesn't